Follow up on that, Senator.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Secretary Mayorkas, failure to stem the flow of fentanyl at the southwest border has absolutely tragic consequences, as you know, for families across the country, and including in my state of Wisconsin. Last year, more than 1,400 Wisconsinites died from overdoses. And between 2019 and 2021, fentanyl overdose deaths in Wisconsin grew by 97%. That's why in October, I called on President Biden to prioritize additional resources to strengthen security at the southwest border to stop the flow of illicit drugs like fentanyl. And I'm glad that the administration listened and is seeking $1.2 billion for the Department of Homeland Security for inspection systems and additional CBP officers. The administration's supplemental request includes funding for urgent needs, and Congress really must act on this supplemental request in full. An all-hands-on-deck approach to addressing fentanyl trafficking requires commitments from international partners as well as local law enforcement. So I particularly want you to drill down on that. How is DHS working with law enforcement partners to both stop the initial flow of fentanyl into our country and then prevent its distribution within our borders? And how will that work be strengthened with the funding in this supplemental request?
Thank you very much, Senator. You're absolutely right that it requires an all-hands-on-deck approach, and it is something that we have to work with our international partners to address, and we are indeed doing so. And let me cite just one example that is illustrative of the advances that we have made. Homeland Security Investigations, the premier law enforcement investigative agency within the Department of Homeland Security, housed at Immigration and Customs Enforcement, has transnational criminal investigative units, TCIUs, that work very closely with our law enforcement partners to the south, in Mexico, in the Central American countries, to address the production of fentanyl, to address the trafficking and the precursor chemicals, the movement of equipment, the movement of monies, all aspects of the transnational criminal organizations, so that we dismantle and disrupt them. That's a perfect example of the international partnerships that we have advanced over the last 3 years.
Thank you. Secretary Becerra, we've heard a lot today, as you know, about the childcare crisis and the consequences of inaction. But the expiration of the childcare stabilization funding is not just a theoretical problem in Wisconsin. Earlier this week, the Washington Post reported on the ripple effect when a childcare provider in a small town like Milton, Wisconsin, had to close their doors as the stabilization funding came to an end. The closure meant that a mom with 2 young children and a baby on the way could no longer afford or find childcare that worked for her family. So she decided to leave her full-time job, which now means that the dental practice where she worked is down 1 dental assistant and can only serve a fraction of the patients that they used to. So childcare is not just a problem for working moms, although that ought to be reason enough to address it. It is also, as this Wisconsin example shows, a problem for everyone that has significant ripple effects. Secretary, are we seeing similar effects in other states as the stabilization program ends? And how will the additional funding through this supplemental proposal reverse this trend?
Senator, you're absolutely right. This is happening throughout the country. I have a particular case here I can cite to you from the state of Maine. Jordan Rosagwal had a child care program in the state of Maine. She was able to keep it afloat because of the stabilization funds that she received. Once she saw the end in sight, she started to make calculations. She realized she would not be able to make payroll, and she made the decision, unfortunately, to close down her center. The impact left some 100 children and their parents, and these are parents in many cases who are professionals, without childcare. This is a story we're going to hear over and over again because the stabilization funds acted immediately to do exactly that, stabilize many childcare centers.
Thank you. Senator Fisher.